I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, and I'm located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Monroe, Washington. And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Alright, so today we're talking about a question that I got through Instagram that I thought would spark a good discussion between Becca and I. We have different perspectives on it, I feel like, because I knew early on what I wanted to do going into college, and this kind of relates to what a college student asked me as they're trying to determine what they want to pursue in their degree post-graduation, and kind of what they want to do with their lives, basically, after they graduate and start a real job. So, I don't know, Becca, if you want to start with a question, since you have it on your side, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, so the question is, well, I'll just read the whole question that he got. It says, I'm an aspiring craftsperson. I love to make things with my hands since I could remember. I'm now in college, took a foundation year in media fundamentals, and now I have to decide between what I love doing and what I would earn money doing. How did you decide you wanted to venture into ceramics, and when did you eventually make the choice? ?
Right. So it sounds like I think she's early on in her college, so she's probably doing foundation classes about freshman, sophomore year, where she's determining like what her major needs to be. It sounds like. And I took those classes too, so those could be for a minor or a major. It's kind of determinant on what your next semester, 2 semesters are going to be as you're starting to get into those nitty-gritty classes where you're actually working towards something that's not gen ed stuff. So from my perspective, I still have to respond to her because I wanted to get a good response and have time to focus on it. And from my perspective, when I was going into college, I wouldn't say that I knew what I wanted to do after college, but I knew like what field I was comfortable in that was going to be secure enough after graduating that I would have a job security and a good chance of getting a decent job. And that's where I ended up doing the computer information technology. I didn't really take any like computer classes and stuff before college, like in high school, and take some of those like programming classes or website classes or whatever that they offer sometimes in high schools. They probably offer a lot more of those nowadays, but I kind of went into it that I definitely liked the ceramic side of it, but I didn't want to risk going at it full steam as a major for like a Bachelor of Fine Arts or a Bachelor of Arts or whatever. And I wanted a security. And I think it obviously depends on what kind of person you are. Like, would you be happy with something like that? Was I happy enough in that field? Honestly, going into college, I didn't say, like, I'm going to be a website developer going into college. I was kind of like, hey, I like tinkering around with computers. I feel like I'm pretty savvy on the computer. And, I didn't really want to do, like, tech support stuff. Because that's, basically, you don't have to get a degree to do tech support. But I knew I was just, like, kind of tech savvy-ish. And I would kind of figure out from the classes I took what kind of route I was going to take. And that's kind of where I went with it. And what about you? Did you did you get a bachelor's in something specific, or? Okay.
I have a question. First, when did you meet Rachel? Was it during college? Because I also feel like that has to do with it too. Your spousal situation, like, did you and Rachel, I forget, did you meet in college and then get married right after?
Yeah, we got married 2 years after college. We technically met freshman year in college, but
okay.
Honestly, she says she remembers meeting me. I don't remember that moment exactly because we lived in the same dorm, but I don't exactly remember the discussion. But so that's kind of a strike against me, I guess. But
yeah, typical man.
We basically started talking and whatnot in. Oh man, I'm gonna forget this. probably junior, senior year, I want to say. So I was already well into my degree and determining what I wanted to do. It wasn't reliant on, like, what... Because when you're in college, like, you're not thinking when you're dating someone, like, oh, I need to think about my prospects of, like, what our marriage is going to look like after college. Because we get married, and then it determines on, like, who's making what money versus that person. I just kind of base it on myself.
I would totally think that. But I'm like a planner in that regard. That's just my nature.
You would think that way, that depending on who you're dating at that time, that it could be long term because you're kind of at that point in your life.
No,
that
I
you're
just feel
kind of getting into your 20s. Or you thought I would be that way because I'm a planner.
No, I would be that way. Like, I know things very early on, so if it was somebody that was like, whatever, this is just a fling, then I wouldn't care. But if it was somebody that I knew it was going to be, like, serious, then I'd be like, okay, let's, like, figure this out because I don't want to make the wrong choice.
Yeah.
But that's just who I am, too.
But I just think individually you should make those decisions based on your own drive and your own motivations and what what you're willing to do and what you enjoy doing versus, you know, what's going to suck the life out of you to do.
I'm not saying that's a positive quality of mine. I'm just saying it is. It is a quality of mine. Okay, so for me, I actually went into college as a graphic design major, which I find to be a common denominator around ceramic artists. I feel like a ton of ceramic artists were in graphic design. It has kind of that design feel, but it's a little bit more hands-on. So it's like almost getting to industrial design, but not quite. not the extent of schooling, you know. So I went in as graphic
I also feel
design.
like a lot of artists want to go in as graphic designers anyways. Like, that's an easy thing to just say, I want to be a graphic designer.
Oh, for sure. Because you can make money doing graphic design. Like, I would have never thought about going in as a fine art major, that is what I ended as. I would have never thought about going in as a fine art major because there was no money in that. I grew up in an extremely, like, you know, conservative, fiscally conservative household. My dad, I'm sure, was rolling in his grave when I told him I was going into art. And not that he's dead, but he will be eventually, and he will be rolling in his grave eventually. But no, I had no intention of going into fine art. I grew up in a very stable, you know, lifestyle. And so when I went in for graphic design and I got through it, and then I got to web design, which is ironic, I was like, peace, I'm out. I don't want to do this. And it was for that and because I didn't want to work for anybody. And, like, you know, the bad decisions that customers make about their own logos. They're like, oh, this should be green. And you're like, no, it should not. Definitely should not. But you have to do what they want. So anyway, when I switched to ceramics, I think that I just naturally decided that, you know, all through college, my professors were like, if you're going to be an artist and if you're going to major in art, there's a possibility that you're going to be a bank teller and have a kind of a crappy job and do art on the side, and that's just your life. And that's not a bad life per se. It's just the life that you're going to do, you know? And so I kind of, like, you know, geared myself up for that almost. When I graduated college, I was like, and I graduated cum laude. Like, I didn't, you know, I'm not dumb or anything. But I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to get a side job and I'll do art on the side and keep doing it, and, you know, do it 2 hours a day or whatever. And then I think that as time kind of went by, I was doing that. I was, you know, I worked at Sherwin-Williams and I had art ceramics on the side. And then I worked at a painting company and I had ceramics on the side. It's always been like that. And then when it arose to be that opportunity, I was like, okay, but it is for sure 100% my personality, because I can count on one hand the amount of people in my graduating college class that are still doing art on a regular basis. You know, I'm a very
Yeah.
determined person. Like you cannot go into an art degree and say I am going to do this and I'm going to succeed at this and not do art. Like you have to do it at least 2 hours a day or whatever. You have to keep the practice up.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
it can't be at some point I'm going to do it or I'm going to make that jump when I'm ready. Because I
Right.
mean, I think you have to do it. You have to do it as you're going along and as you're taking these other jobs and using your spare time to not say, "Oh, I need to decompress from my day job." You need to
Right.
use those hours. If you're really motivated, then you need to use that extra time that you're not sleeping and not working to work
Exactly.
on art stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's when I read that question and they literally said I have to decide between what I love doing and what I would earn money doing. Immediately, like, in my head, I was like, well, obviously you should major in something you're going to earn money at, and then and then you should keep doing what you love doing on the side, kind of like what you're doing, because
Right.
and not because, oh, it's the safe bet. That is not the reason I would say. The reason I would say it is because look at how many different skills you can have under your belt. You know, I wish that I would
Yeah.
have gotten into ceramics and done engineering. Like that would have been so much fun for me. I love engineering, and I could have had another skill under my belt that is, a backup plan or just something I really like doing. If I did switch to ceramics, or having that option is really like take college to the most that it's going to give you. You can learn how to do ceramics anywhere, literally anywhere. Like you can find a class, you can find a teacher, you can be an apprentice,
Right.
you can find it anywhere. But can you find a quantum physics class anywhere? No. You can only find that at college.
Not without going back to school.
Yeah, so I guess
Yeah.
that's what I would typically go for.
And depending on what school you're at, I mean, I got a pretty good minor in ceramics. Like, I feel like I got a rounded minor. And I didn't have to do all the fancy art stuff. Like, I didn't care about that. I cared about the classes and the making the forms and getting studio time and doing the alternative firings like wood firing and raku
Right.
firing and all those kind of skills that you lose that ability once you're graduated, honestly, unless there's a community studio that you can do that stuff. But it's not very it's kind of expensive, honestly, to take some of those classes or, obviously you're not going to build one of those kilns just one-off unless you know some people,
Totally. You probably got a far superior education in ceramics than I did, actually.
We have amazing resources at Northern Kentucky University. They're awesome.
I went to a school that was super engineering. The art department literally tanked while I was there. They shut down the art department while I was in my senior year. Not shut it down, but you can't get a fine arts degree anymore. It has to be a graphic design degree or an arts minor.
Yeah, some of those degrees, like graphic design, fall weird in some colleges. Mm-hmm. The way that they're categorized, because sometimes they're not considered art at all. They're considered I want to say like a science or something like I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not always under the School of Arts, like a fine art kind of thing.
Ours was under the environmental design school because we had a really big landscape architecture program and a really big architecture program.
Yeah.
So that's what it was under. And so it never really fit, and the dean was he was not a fan of the arts. So anyway, but I would
Yeah, so
yeah, I would potentially and my teacher, the one that was the production potter, Larry Bruning, he always said that it's a waste. He was like, it's a waste to get your degree in ceramics or pottery, which I don't know if I completely agree with, but I could see his point. There's some of the best potters in the world are out in the middle of Ohio, and they don't talk to anybody.
Right.
You can always find somebody that's talented to teach you, You don't have to pay the cost of a college tuition to do it. I feel like ceramics is one of those crafts genres, much like welding or masonry or anything like that, where you can learn as an apprentice.
But are you missing out on finding your own like type of work that you want to make by having access to resources
Totally.
like wood kilns and raku kilns and all that kind of stuff? Like you're not going to get
No.
that gamut of
Right, and
options
I think that
in a lot of studios.
That's true. So yeah, it totally depends too. Like, if you want to go into like production pottery, if you already know what you want to do, if you've gotten a taste of it in college. I guess that I'm saying that under the assumption that you're in college now, you're deciding to get your degree in engineering, and there's a studio there, and you can like go part-time, and then maybe afterwards you're like, oh hey, I want to do an apprenticeship. Like there's always a resource somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my answer would be, I mean, ultimately it comes down to self-awareness. Like, what are you going to be happy doing? Do you have enough interest in some other area that will make you money? Because honestly, for me, if I wasn't doing this and I was doing the ceramic stuff, and like I would be struggling a lot, and I think I could push myself, but it would take so much more effort and drive to get there. And it's so much easier on me now. And I kind of feel guilty about that sometimes because I'm taking it that route and I'm not going the typical route, and I'm less like artsy or less of an artist for that way because I'm not taking the hard way that other artists go through when they.
I feel like you're smart.
Get a degree, but I mean, I'm like, hey, I can make all this money and do all this stuff and enjoy traveling and make my pots in the nights and weekends and learn how to actually sell work, learn what customers actually like that I make. What do I enjoy making versus not like making? What shows are good, what shows aren't good. I can save for retirement now, and it's going to build over 30 or 40 years until I retire. It's going to build over time.
I think
that compounding is going to help me in the long run that I can't do if I'm, struggling artist that can't even make my bills, much less say for retirement or something like that,
And your job has honestly helped you immensely on the back end of your pottery career. The Instagram end, the algorithms, all those things. I didn't know you before college, but I would venture to say that you, with your job, you've learned a lot about algorithms and how to manipulate the tech system in a way. And so, it's greatly affected your career now as a potter.
Yeah, I would say the most beneficial thing besides just the skills of programming or web design and stuff like that, and making things easier and simpler for customers to interact with, is focusing more on the analytics side. And the corporate business that I work for, they make their decisions very much based on data and analytics to drive the most efficient way to get customers to buy products and stuff like that. So making data-driven decisions based on proven information and analytics behind what customers are actually doing and what drives the most actual business and purchasing is probably the most beneficial thing that I've learned from my day job, I would say. And that ties into what products I'm making and spending time making things that I know will sell, or putting things on the back burner that maybe I can do away with making that. It doesn't give me so much joy making it that I'm willing to do it when people aren't going to buy it. It gives me more joy to make it when I know it's going to sell and know people are going to appreciate it more.
Yeah. I would say my answer to the question is twofold, I think. I have two different answers. I have two scenarios. The first scenario is go ahead and do it and like be an artist, but you have to be, I'm not bragging here, but you have to be the type of person I am, where you have to be able to go until there is no more. I don't have a family. I have cats. That's it. But I don't have, I like have my parents, but they're in a different state. I don't have like any immediate connection that is holding me down to, I can be at the studio until 4 in the morning if I wanted to. There's nobody telling me, hey, come back, come home. There's nobody that I have to split my time with. Which I think that there is a huge benefit to having somebody else to tell you to come home because that's healthy. But like I've always kind of struggled actually with that fact. But I say if you do get your degree in art and you do go with something that you quote unquote love, then take the appropriate business classes. At the very beginning, get a job at a small business and see how they're doing their business. Or find a mentor that will teach you how to do everything that you need to know with taxes or anything like that. I've been extremely lucky. I think that I've been led in certain ways throughout my adult life that have put me in certain positions to help me succeed where I am now. And then if you do choose to go with doing something that makes money, keep doing your pottery. Like, keep doing the ceramics. I actually just bought my employee a wheel because she's crazy, and she's majoring in, she's doing 2 science majors and then a minor in neuroscience. So she's doing, biology and,
wow.
I think it's biology and civil engineering and then a minor in neuroscience. And I was like, are you going to have an extracurricular? Because you need to have some sanity. I think that it's, if you are going to do a crazy job that earns a lot of money, you need to carve out the time to do what you love. And then maybe that will morph into something that is profitable for you. Like Ryan says, I think he's planning on eventually, switching over, but he's taking steps to do that. A lot of people will say that they're going to do it and they won't do it. And that's the thing, is you have to be extremely dedicated to what your plan is. I think that if you love ceramics, if you love pottery, or this person actually never said that pottery was their thing. But if they love painting or whatever, I think that it's important to dedicate time to make sure that that is a significant part of your life. Because for some people, having it be a hobby is actually far more enjoyable than having it be a job. Because from somebody who does have it as a job, don't think that it's not going to become a job.
Yeah.
I know a few people that, I love what I do. I've been doing it for 20 years and I envy them to the fullest. But I also know a lot of people that are like, I really don't want to get up this morning. I really don't want to do this. But I have to because it's my job. And it takes a little bit of a way. That doesn't mean that you don't lose the love of pottery that you've always had. I still love going to the studio and I still love sitting down and just throwing for 4 hours. But do I get to do that very often? No, I don't. Right now, I'm a full-fledged businesswoman, so that's probably 10-20% of my life right now. And so that is something that you have to really consider. Owning a business in your passion is not you doing your passion all the time. It is you doing your passion probably 20, 30, 40% of the time and doing the business 70% of the time. So that's,
and no matter how good of an artist you are, that's not going to put the small business knowledge that you need on the back burner. You're not going to out art your business side of it. You have to still learn how to sell and manage a business and stuff like that.
Right.
Are you a person that wants to be self-employed? Like Becca said, she didn't want to work for someone else. I don't know if she became a small business owner because she didn't want to work for someone else, or she wanted to work for someone else so or she wanted to work for herself
Yeah.
more than not working for others. So that kind
Yeah,
of
I
comes
don't know
into
why I
it.
became a business owner. That's still a question. I was talking.
I feel like you have to do one or the other, right? You have to
Yeah.
either work for yourself or you have to work for someone else. There's like, there's not really
Sometimes-
anything in between. Is there?
Sometimes I sit and I'm like, I daydream about working for somebody else and like going home at night at like 6. I daydream about it, and I'm like, man, that might be nice. I was talking to this guy at the bar next door, and it's so funny because everybody always says it does pay off. It pays off. And I was talking to him, and he's actually retired because he invented some weird thing for helicopters. And he was like, yeah, well, I own my own business. And I was like, and he goes, and now I'm retired. And I'm look at him, and I was like, you mean it does pay off? And he's like, no, it actually does. Like, no shit, it actually does pay off. I'm like, no.
Nice.
I know so many people that are small business owners that are working, they're on the work till you die program, and they're going to work until they're 85 years old. And which is
Right.
fine if you like working. And but that is the realism of owning your own business. Like, unless you have some crazy scenario that takes off and goes crazy and you have you're Steve Madden and have a freaking shoe company that's $1 billion of revenue, you are just another ant in the pile of America. And you gotta work hard until you die.
Right.
I feel like
And it's
I'm
ultimately
being a
up to
damper
you.
now.
Like, you are, it's all on you. Like, nobody cares whether you succeed or not necessarily. Like, you have to have
Right.
the drive to succeed yourself and push yourself to do
Right.
what you want to do.
The
No one
amount
else
of
is going to push you into the
determination-
studio.
No. Determination is 100% of the game. I feel
So
like
I think
I've
we already
just
kinda
got
know
all
what,
depressing and stuff. I'm just being real. I do like my life. I promise.
So I have a perspective on, like, going to master's degrees for, like, ceramics, but what's your
let's hear
perspective
it.
on that?
No, I want to hear yours. I just spent 25 minutes talking. What did you...
So,
what's
I
your-
mean, I mean, we already kind of talked about, like, getting a bachelor's and stuff like that in ceramics, that those skills, it's good to get those skills, but, I mean, I think it ultimately depends on what you want to be, like, known for, or what you want your foot in the door for. Do you want to be known as, like, a gallery person to be known in the art world or the ceramics world or painting world or whatever? And I feel like in ceramics, you can just, like, enjoy throwing pots.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like if you just enjoy pots and you want to learn to be a production potter or whatever, like, what's the point in going to get a master's? Because I think you benefit way more. And honestly, the money you're putting into a master's, you need to learn how to sell your shit. And you're just getting more in debt and staying in academia and relying on these resources that, like, the studios provide and the colleges provide, that you need to kind of, like, figure that out yourself with work you're making. I know you make more work and you kind of you're not so tied to what you've made in the past during college or whatever, and you're kind of building on your art background, I guess, of getting more well-rounded of why you're doing what you're doing. But I don't know. I think it just benefits to make work more so than staying in college or master's or whatever to get more education. I mean, there's a lot of degrees that you can get that you make more money and it makes more sense to get a higher education past a bachelor's. But, I mean, art, I feel like I don't see the benefit of getting a higher education in art.
This is good because my opinion on this is ever evolving. I would have agreed with you probably 5 weeks ago. I feel like more and more recently I have noticed a bunch of people that are highly, highly successful in ceramics. Not to mention, I'm going to say this first, that if you don't get a master's, you can't teach at the college level. And a lot of ceramicists make their money teaching in the higher education system. So that's a lot of the backing behind getting a master's. I know that for sure. But
Right.
that's
I thought of that too, but I'm like assuming you're not teaching. But
yeah, like
I should have
we're
prefaced
assuming
that,
you're
but
not
yeah.
teaching here. I've never had a master's. Obviously, you haven't either. In ceramics.
I don't even have a bachelor's in ceramics, but
See, you don't even have a bachelor's in ceramics.
I'm looking at it from the money side of it. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
We're coming from the business side. But yeah, so I personally don't think that I would benefit from a master's in ceramics. I learned from a lady that got her master's in ceramics, and she made the coolest little animal cups, and she was in debt, and I know that my professor in college was in debt quite a bit, and that never appealed to me just because of the debt. But I do see a lot of the very like intricate, detailed ceramics that I really admire. I know that most of those people have gotten their masters in ceramics. So I think that the difference is that when you get your master's, you have another 2 years that are really focused on ceramics. And if you were to go into pottery, like if you, let's say that you graduated in ceramics and then went right into a business of ceramics, then you're hopping right into the I have to sell towards a market phase, and you don't have those next 2 years to kind of like be like, what do I like to do, or what are these things that appeal to me? You have to jump right into the selling towards a person, like kind of what I did. So Ryan, you've done wood firing. Have you done charcoal firing and raku firing, right? Have you done soda?
Yeah, I have not done soda. I did like a salt firing in high school, but that was about it. There's a soda kiln at Queen City Clay nearby that they have cone 6 and cone 10, and I've been talking with Lacey there about getting some pieces in there, some textiles in there to do it for fun, kind of at some point this year.
So there's an example, right? So Ryan went to an extremely clay profiting school, and he's had time to kind of like experiment in clay. I went to a very clay, like, it wasn't super focused on clay. I've done a charcoal firing and a gas and cone 10 gas firing and then electric firing, and that is it. I've never done raku, partly because my professor hated it. I've never done wood. I've never done soda. So I'm extremely focused in my techniques and where my profession lies. I wouldn't say, like, I would never go into a college class and say, hey, I know how to do this, when I haven't, even ever done half of the firings. But that doesn't mean that I'm not good at what I do. But had I had a master's in ceramics, I would have gotten to experience that. I would have gotten to experience all of the things. However, do I think that it makes you more money in the end? No. That's my short.
Unless you're teaching and it's a requirement.
Unless you're teaching and it's a requirement. Do I think it makes you more money? No. Do I think it can be valuable? Yes. Do I think it's worth the money? No. So, that's where I'm
at. So we kind of sit in the same ballpark.
We sit in the same ballpark, yeah.
I mean, I think it ultimately comes down to the person. Like,
totally. Some people
that get a master's see value in it. Yes. Do they? I don't know. Also, I'm just not as interested in the art side of it and the meaning behind it. Like, I want to know how I can run the business and make money and make what I like making, and kind of I rely on the customer feedback to determine what I like making, because it makes me feel enjoyment and pride in the work more when I know a customer is going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm not making what I don't like because I'm appeasing the customer. It's just, that's what gets me enjoyment, by fulfilling what they like and what they enjoy seeing and appreciating in my work. It's not like, oh, I'm this big artsy person and I'm telling you what I want you to enjoy, or I'm making what I'm making and I don't care what you say because,
I do what I want.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think that, if I was, okay, so here's a question. If you were at, like, if there was no money involved at all, but only there was an effect of money afterwards, I guess. But if there's no money at all involved, like you didn't have to pay any money and didn't have to go into debt, what would you master's in? What would you get your master's in? Anything.
Entrepreneurship.
Like business?
Entrepreneurship, probably.
Is entrepreneurship, you can get a master's in entrepreneurship?
I have no idea. I would just get a bachelor's in it, probably. I don't know.
You would just make up a master's?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't. So you're saying it's basically fun money. It's just extra. You could just spend the time to do this
paying
thing.
for it.
But I mean, you have to work hard for it. So you obviously have to enjoy it.
So what would you get your master's in?
I mean, it could be ceramic. I don't know. It ultimately still has an effect on your day-to-day stuff. I mean, it's going to take time out of my day, so I probably wouldn't do it. But
okay, we're talking perfect world that you have, like, all the time in the world. Like, there was no
okay, so it's for funsies. There's, like, I get inherited, like, $500,000 or something, and I've just got time to do whatever. I'm not in a rush.
And you get to take 2 years off, and you're going to start at the same spot you ended, and you got a master's. What would you get?
Okay. I mean, it'd probably be like entrepreneurship or business or something like that.
I would get a master's in industrial design.
Yeah?
Yeah. I really like
furniture. Is that considered art, or does that fall under like an engineering kind of?
No, it's kind of a hybrid. It's kind of a hybrid between architecture and graphic design, and engineering. So it's whatever furniture, like your can opener, anything that's designed. I just I've always been interested in design, but I've always been interested in product design. Essentially, like how bottles are made, or how the Apple charger is made, or the computer. And I find that the pieces that I sell that are engineered the most, like this. So I have a wine glass, right? And it's heavy at the bottom. It's got a thin rim. It's got a thumb dent, and it's a certain height. And it's like everything about it has been thought about. And I would not say that any of my other pieces are as thought out as this piece. And it's the one that I sell the most because I like it the most. Because I'm like, hey, that one has this and this and this and this and this, because it's cool, And I get excited about the design. And I think that if I went for industrial design, I would really enjoy being able to design pots better. That's my answer.
Cool. If only we lived in that world.
If only we lived in that world. Oh, gosh. That'd be nice.
Yeah. All right, so should we wrap it up for the day?
I think so. That was a short one, but I liked it.
All right, so thank you all for listening. We really appreciate your support. And we'll be back hopefully next week with some more good stuff for you.
Yeah.
And thanks for sticking around. See you guys.
Totally. Bye, guys. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. You can reach Ryan at @RDCeramics on Instagram, and me at 5 Lines Pottery Studio on Instagram. We look forward to continuing this podcast, and we are having so much fun. I hope you continue to listen, and remember to share it with your friends.